Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Curious podcast. If you're listening to us, it is Wednesday, and we are talking about something great that you want to learn a little bit more about in the world of sports. And it just happens that we are rolling into the official start of the summer, Memorial Day weekend. Don't know how we got here so quickly, but Memorial Day weekend is filled with a plethora of sporting events. If you are a sports fan, this weekend is about as exciting for you as Super Bowl Sunday. There are so many things happening, mostly lots of fast things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today so you can be in the know at your Memorial Day barbecue and have some great small talk ready to rock. And here to join me to have some small talk and cover what's happening in the world of Memorial Day weekend is my co-host, my co-founder, my brother, my favorite human, Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here as one half of the Brother Sister Sports Podcast that everyone loves.
That's right. It is. It's everyone's favorite siblings podcast.
Yes.
I mean, what better way to spend your Wednesday than with us?
I can't think of anything better.
I can't. I'd love to hang out with you on a Wednesday.
Virtually, yes.
Virtually. That's exactly it. We get to hang out here.
Yes.
So we're rolling into Memorial Day weekend. There's a lot of things we're going to cover today. Talk to me about your favorite Memorial Day tradition.
I think you said in the opening that the sports calendar is flying by. We're already in May, almost June. And my favorite tradition of Memorial Day is the fastest day of the year on Sunday when we get 3 races from 3 different, leagues all day. The need for speed is real on Memorial Day.
For sure. So we start the day off, and we're not going to spend too much time here because we really want to spend with our eyes on one big event. But we start the day off with the Monaco Grand Prix, which is Formula One, which is the most stunning race car. I think it's the most stunning race car race, period. It's through the streets of Monaco, past the yachts, past castles, and the streets are just lined with people. And it's a tricky course. But an interesting thing about Monaco is that a lot of the drivers actually happen to live there.
Yeah, this is something that we discovered while researching for the podcast. I think almost over half of the F1 drivers declare Monaco as their residence, not just for the stunning beauty and the views, it's because of the tax purposes. There's no taxes there.
Well, I mean, that seems to make life a lot easier. They also don't have to commute to one race, at least.
No,
right?
exactly. They just walk out their front door and through the crowded streets of Monaco to get to the course.
So obviously Monaco has no income tax, no wealth tax, no local tax, no property tax, and no capital gains tax. But what I did find really interesting, one of the other reasons is privacy. There are 12,000 millionaires living in Monaco, a third of the entire population. So it's not like they're having to deal with crazy fans. And the government requires written permission for all professional photography. So there are fewer paparazzi.
It's a win-win, no taxes, and no one cares who they are, as opposed to everywhere else in the world where everyone, they're instant celebrities. So it sounds like a great deal to me.
I mean, sounds perfect. If I was a race car driver earning millions of dollars, sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, so we're gonna have the F1 race. Max Verstappen has been having a killer year again, and so chances are this might be his race again as well. But then after that, we roll into the Indy 500, which is a spectacle. The greatest spectacle in racing, I believe, is the tagline for it, if I remember correctly.
It is the greatest.
And
yeah, absolutely. I was just gonna say.
And you've been, yeah.
I have been, and everyone who asks me what's my favorite sporting event to attend, just to be a part of, I always tell them Indy 500, just because we went for the 100th running, and just the overall experience, the fans, the stadium, the track, the race, the pageantry, everything. It's just an incredible experience to be a part of.
And come for the racing, stay for this St. Elmo's fire hot cocktail sauce. Is that about right?
Unfortunately, when we went, I didn't make it in time to go to St. Elmo's. They went the night before. So I still have to go back at some point to try St. Elmo's and attend another Indy 500.
Well, if my husband Reagan says it's hot, you know it's hot, so
Yes. Yes, so
be prepared.
it's still on the bucket list.
Okay. Well, what's really interesting, there's actually a lot of really quirky,
Mhm.
interesting things about the Indy 500. I mean, it's been around for so long. That's the 108th running on Sunday. But I think two of the things that stand out to me. Number one is it's like 325,000 people in the at the racetrack. That to me is mind-boggling, right? 125,000 people, and I'm sure the traffic probably
Oh,
explains that.
yeah, I mean, the traffic in and out is absolutely insane. On the way in, people literally park their cars and camp out in line to get in to the track.
Really?
Well, obviously they bring their own beer, so they park their car, maybe drink some beers and take a nap until they can get into the track.
Yeah. So the track itself, the race itself is BYOB. You can bring your own food, you can bring your own snacks, you can bring your own beer because they probably can't serve 325,000 people, I'm assuming.
Exactly. I think that's what made it one of my top tier sporting events of all time is just the people watching, people bringing in their own beers, the food they're bringing in, and just honestly just having like the best time of their lives.
Was it hot? I'm imagining it's
Oh, it
hot.
was incredibly hot. So there's a lot of people that sit out there, like I said, in traffic, or they camp across the street all weekend in the heat, and we saw a lot of dehydrated people by the end of the race.
A lot of smelly people too,
Probably
probably.
yes, but at that point you can't
Yeah.
distinguish who's smelling what. So yeah,
Is it that guy or that guy? I don't know.
it's all of them.
So, we're talking about BYOB and it being hot, and there is nothing. I think this is the most random tradition. The story behind it's great, but the most random tradition. The winner of the Indy 500 selects, and then pours milk over their head as part of, they're supposed to drink it, but they usually pour it over their heads because who wants to drink milk on a hot day after being in a car?
Yes,
But that is the tradition. They pick a kind of milk and they drink it. Now, this was a tradition that started back in 1936 with Lewis Meyer, whose go-to drink after winning was a glass of milk. Milk executives spotted this act, and the rest is history. Now, you have some numbers for us, but the drivers can choose between whole milk, 2% milk, or skim milk. You cannot pick chocolate milk, which I find disappointing.
highly disappointing. I don't know if they've ever started a petition. I assume they have at some point.
Yeah. So who do we have people drinking skim milk? I feel like that's just wussing out on it all.
I do have some bad news for you on that one. There were a few drivers that did select skim milk, which I assume that those two drivers probably won't even win. So that's probably why they just selected it. I mean, you have to have
I
a
mean,
pretty solid milk choice if you know you're going to win. And
right, like you're just gonna go whole milk all in because you're gonna do it.
yeah, so 26 drivers selected whole milk, 5 drivers selected 2%, and 2 drivers selected skim. Oat milk, almond milk are not an option, unfortunately.
I'm disappointed by
Yes,
this. I mean, my plant-based diet of milk was not gonna work. We're hosed.
yeah.
You know,
So if you're not,
this is why we can't be Indy drivers, right? Or Scott, this is why we can't do
that's
it.
exactly why I never really got into it. That's why you just dump it over
Yeah.
your head if you're lactose intolerant. But you have to go whole milk, right? Just like
You have
make
to.
it
I
simply
mean,
possible after we're driving a couple hours in 100-degree heat.
right? Imagine, right? It's 100 degrees. So the track itself is probably what 120, 130
Yes.
probably. And then being in the car. I mean, so you are totally dehydrated, so disgustingly hot. And they're like, here you go. Here's some milk.
Here's some milk.
You want this? Because this is going to be quenching your thirst.
Yeah, and they probably don't smell. They probably smell just as bad as everyone else at the track at that point. So
Well, just add another layer of milk. Why not?
why not?
Okay. Well, some of the other great traditions they have besides milk, they have, I don't even know where we want to go with this. The snake pit, the racetrack is massive. We have some great racers. Where do you want to go? You take it to the next level. I'll let you
I
drive.
think we already spoke about the capacity. They're expecting 325,000 people. We can just talk about the sheer size of the track. Maybe with perhaps a fun quiz for you.
Okay, I'm here.
So there's a lot of things that can simultaneously fit inside the track. I know you've been to the
Okay.
track in Las Vegas where you can see all the corners, you can see everything at one time. With this track, you cannot. You can only see like specific corners wherever you're sitting just because it's so large.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'll give you a few things that could simultaneously fit inside, and you tell me if they're correct or not.
The country of Monaco.
Country of Monaco, probably based on the
Probably.
things we've got here on the list. So
Okay.
Churchill Downs, Yankee
Okay.
Stadium, Rose Bowl, Vatican City, Taj Mahal, White House, Liberty Island, Roman Coliseum,
Okay.
and Monaco.
Monaco. Well, I feel like, do I have to pick amongst those ones?
Which doesn't belong.
Which one is the Sesame Street? One of these things is not like the other. Uh, I would say, gosh, those are all really big venues. Maybe Liberty Island.
Well, everything that I listed, I added Monaco at the end, but everything else I listed could simultaneously fit inside.
That's insane. I know they have a golf course
You
too,
also have
right?
a golf course in there as well. Unfortunately, did not get to play.
That's a bummer. Now, if I remember correctly, they always do a phenomenal EDM concert in the middle of, I mean, because it's such a large space, right? You could probably have your RV people come in. You can probably have a concert. You could probably also, you know, throw a baseball game in there or something. But
Yeah,
they have big EDM concert during. Is it during the race or is it like the day
well,
before?
it's during the race.
As you do.
So yeah, it's in the infield of the track, and I'm sure there's people at said EDM festival that have no idea there was even a race going on,
It's probably true.
and there's people at the race that have no idea that EDM festival is going on. So
And everyone's dehydrated.
everyone's dehydrated. Yeah, so there's a full-on EDM festival in the middle of the track called the Snake Pit. Those people are extremely brave to be in there all day in the heat.
So that's just something to watch for if you
Yes.
if you happen to catch a clip of the race. It is, you can watch for the EDM party in there happening.
Yeah, I think they usually send one of their correspondents in the middle of the crowd just to kind of give you a taste of what's going on.
Here you go, honey. You're new. We're gonna need you to go to the crowd and cover the BYOB bleachers over there.
Yes.
And then I'm gonna need you to go under the tunnel and head over to the EDM to the snake pit. No problem.
So you're in your stripes.
This is a true statement. Now, they always do really cool, they always have great grand marshals and pace car drivers and have a really notable anthem singers typically. So who are we going to see this year for those big key roles?
Yeah, these are major roles that take place during the race. Grand Marshal, I think, is kind of very relevant with Indiana Fever, kind of in the forefront of all sports at this point with, Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston. A lot of things going on in Indy as far as basketball. The Pacers are in the conference finals. So they have Indiana Fever legend Tamika Catching serving as the Grand Marshal.
Well, that's awesome.
Yes.
And for those who don't know, the Indiana Fever is the WNBA team for Indiana. The Pacers are their NBA team. But Tamika is notable. Olympic gold medalist, 10-time WNBA All-Star,
Yeah.
5-time Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, she's phenomenal, and she's also making history as the parade's first Black female Grand Marshal, which I'm here for.
Yeah, I mean, her resume is absolutely incredible. So kind of to give her this limelight. So kind of maybe people who are just doing basketball kind of get to see where she walked so these players could run with chartered flights and things like that. So it's pretty cool to get her this opportunity.
I hope she doesn't have to pour milk on her head, too.
I mean, if she wants to, she can. It's her choice.
Maybe like a little mayo hair conditioner or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Tamika as the Grand Marshal, which does what? She's in a parade ahead of time. Does that sound right?
And if I'm not mistaken, she would tip the shoe wave the green flag. I could be wrong on that.
Quite possible. I think you might be right on that. The Grand Marshal waved the flag. And then before that, we have the national anthem.
Jordan Sparks, so I think she's performed the national anthem in every huge sporting event you could ever imagine, I believe. So she is going to be singing then. Philip Phillips will perform God Bless America.
Both American Idol contestants, if I remember correctly.
How about that?
This must be on whatever station network carries American Idol, would be my guess.
Or they just have beautiful voices and they just happen to be from the same place.
They have voices of angels and have agreed to also dump whole milk on their heads.
Yes.
And then last we have the pace car. So this person will drive the pace car that really starts
hmm
the race, the 33 cars. And it's Ken Griffey Jr., the legendary baseball Hall of Famer.
Legendary baseball Hall of Famer. You know, my generation, we grew up watching him play, so he's just iconic in that sense for our generation. So hopefully that maybe some younger kids will try to figure out who he is now. But he also has some interesting ties to the race. Post baseball, he's taken up a career as a photographer, and
So is Randy Johnson.
yes, it must be some kind of baseball thing. I'm not quite sure,
Yeah.
but he's been to the race before strictly as a photographer. So now he's going to get
Interesting.
the opportunity to drive the pace car, and I assume he'll be taking pictures as well.
That's cool. Now, speaking of, I'm going to just say driving fast,
Yes.
we have a really interesting doubleheader, which will lead us into the final event of the day. We have Kyle Larson and former driver Jimmy Johnson, who are basically, oh, and we need to talk about Catherine. But let's talk about Catherine first, then we'll talk about Kyle
Go.
and Jimmy.
Deal. So we've had 9 female drivers take part in the Indy 500. I think Danica Patrick might be the first woman to ever lead a lap in the race.
I think you're right.
And then, so this year we have Catherine Legg carrying out that tradition of being a woman in the field. She qualified, so she will be driving, representing for the ladies. So hopefully
That's
she'll,
awesome.
have a good
She'll
result throughout the
continue to make us
race.
proud. That's right.
And
I hope she didn't pick skim milk.
I don't think so.
Okay. Good job.
She's from England, so I don't know if they know what skim milk is.
That's probably true. That's just water.
Yeah, so she'll be in the field, hopefully in the number 51 car. So hopefully she'll be up towards the top of the leaderboard. And I have a question. I don't know anything about beauty brands.
Okay.
She's sponsored by ELF. I don't know if you know anything about that.
The makeup company, I'm assuming, beauty company.
I don't think it's the movie Elf. I think it's the ELF. E.L.F beauty brand.
Yep. So yes, definitely beauty brand. It's actually really interesting that you mentioned that they're sponsoring her. I just saw, gosh, probably last week, I was reading a magazine in the airplane, and there was a full spread of sponsored by them about with Billie Jean King. For those who don't know Billie Jean King, she's a tennis legend. Really was the woman who brought up equality in tennis, equal pay, etc. And they did this whole ad about serving up facts with Billie Jean King, and it's talking about women in business and how diversity is good for business. It's really fascinating about talking about how many publicly traded companies have women on their board of directors, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really cool to see that they've continued that, and if they're really smart, right? They're at the forefront of sponsoring women's
Mhm.
sports. Maybe the price point's too big in basketball, but look at the stage you're going to get at the Indy 500. It's
Yes.
a huge viewership. People may not watch the whole thing because it's a long race, but it's incredible to see, and I'm here for it.
So they're right on brand with Billie Jean King, and then women like Catherine Legg trailblazing and
Yeah,
driving a
it's pretty cool.
200.
We'll have to keep an eye on. I'm sure they probably have other female athletes in the queue, so we'll have to
Yes.
keep an eye out who they're have promoting their brand here soon. Okay, so we're gonna wrap us with what I started with, but Kyle Larson, Jimmy Johnson are attempting to pull off double headers, doing the Indy 500, then the Coca-Cola 600, which is a NASCAR race.
I think very few drivers have attempted and actually qualified to do this. I mean, it's a pretty grueling day of driving, as you can imagine. So Kyle Larson qualified for the Indy 500. I think this might be his first ever Indy race.
Wow.
He may have won it too, but I think this might be like his first major race. So he qualified, I think, 5th. And he's typically a NASCAR
Wow.
driver. And as you can assume, these cars are very different between an Indy car
Yeah.
and a NASCAR, just the setup and how it drives. So for him to come in and do that, it's pretty remarkable, the skill that he has. Yeah, so he'll race Indy 500 in the afternoon, and then once that is over, he will hop on a helicopter to the Indy airport, fly to Charlotte, helicopter from there to the track, and drive in the Coca-Cola 600.
And I'm sure there's going to be some sort of medical staff in the private jet who's going to hook him up to
Yeah,
IVs and everything else you can think of to hydrate the heck out of him, because imagine how, like we said, how depleted you'd be.
yeah. I mean, 100-degree weather in Indy, and then I'm sure North Carolina's not much cooler. So,
Yeah,
physical demand and the mental demand on him to pull off the
that's
feat is truly remarkable. And I don't know, no one's ever won both in the same day, so maybe he could really
that'd be a record, wouldn't
set the
it?
bar high that I'm sure no one else would ever even touch.
Now, so they have Indy 500,
Mhm.
then we go to the Coca-Cola 600,
Yes.
right? 600,
Yes.
which is, I believe, the world's longest race. It feels like it after you've watched a whole day of racing. The Coca-Cola 500 or 600 starts
Mhm.
later, and I feel like you're watching it and you're like, it's how is it now 8:30 at night and they're still going? Didn't we start this at like 2 o'clock?
Yeah, it's the longest race on the NASCAR schedule. So if you're going Monaco, Indy, and then Coca-Cola, you've got a very long day of
It's a very
motorsports.
long day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just imagine trying to
And
drive both.
yeah, and I'm assuming this he may hop a ride with Kyle Larson, but Jimmy Johnson, who is former NASCAR racer, but also he raced in the Indy 500, if I'm correct. But he's participating in the coverage of it, and he's going from Indy 500 to the Coca-Cola 600 as well. So I'm imagining that he's going to hitch a ride
Mhm.
with Kyle Larson, probably.
Yep, a little bit different version of the doubleheader. Like, so he'll probably hop on that helicopter and flight. So yeah, he's doing commentating for Indy, and then he'll drive the Coca-Cola 600. So
Oh, he'll drive the Coca-Cola 600.
yes, so he's
Oh, wow.
kind of the same doubleheader, but not as intense as Mr. Larson.
Unless he's the guy they're sending out to the bleachers with the BYOB crowd and the snake pit.
He may be on some secondhand substances if he's in a snake pit, so I don't know if that's a good idea.
Maybe not even by
Yeah,
choice, maybe by just osmosis.
just by being part of people's sweat.
Ew.
So yeah, the two gentlemen really trying to overachieve that day. So it's kind of something cool to keep track of.
That's pretty cool. Well, I'm here for it. So we've got these three big events. Obviously, we have basketball. We have so many other things that are also happening, but this Indy 500 really is the crown achievement of that Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. So you have Monday to recover and get back
Um,
to it. But it's an incredible weekend. It's a fast weekend, quite literally. And it's our official kickoff to summer. So there's so many things coming up in the summer that we're going to talk about as we roll through. We're talking hot dog eating contest, Olympics,
mhm.
just the casual things that happen. So it'll be a great summer and I'm looking forward to it. And thanks for sharing all things Memorial Day weekend with us.
Thank you. Can I have one more point?
Of course you
I'll
can.
just highlight that Indianapolis is going to be the epicenter of sports this weekend. The Boston Celtics will be playing in Indy against the Pacers on Saturday night in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm sure that crowd is going to be on a whole
Crazy.
different level of excitement and hydration.
Yeah. Well, shout out to my friends Jeff and Emily. They go every year. He's from Indy and he's trying to get Pacers tickets because it's like, why not? You're already there.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's an impossible ticket to get. And there will be no Boston Celtics fans there because I'm sure there's no hotel rooms.
No, probably not. And fun fact about the Pacers, Caitlin Clark's boyfriend works for the Pacers.
She does.
So all things Indiana.
All things Indiana. And
There you have
Vancouver
it.
will be in Las Vegas on Saturday night playing the Aces. So we have all kinds of things going on.
Gonna be an exciting weekend. Well, I look forward to it. Thanks for sharing and keep up with us on social media at Last Night's Game or at lastnightsgame.com.